We said that, but we don't need last week's paper. But we do need. We were right in the middle. I remind everyone we're in the middle of learning the storyline. Remember the storyline around. We started learning what happens in Emek Israel. You guys remember?
Oh yes.
So what we said, and we really ended our learning mamash with these last statements. So if you guys open up Hosea Perek Aleph, that we should have by us anyway.
Well, this is have to work for Perek Bet.
Is it? Cool.
Mitzvah Torah is in Hosea.
Okay, it's a good book. It's a good book. So we're going to talk about the desert in Perek Bet. It's one of the motivim, one of the motives. We're going to see what it means when Hosea references the desert. But I want to give a quick recount of what we saw in Perek Aleph. Besides who Hosea is and what he's doing with, that we said he's dealing with tshuva. That's really the story of Hosea is tshuva. And we said he himself is from a family of tshuva, and his mentor was the first prophet, or one of the first prophets who attempts to bring Am Yisrael back in tshuva and pays the ultimate price. And then we saw Chazal putting all of Sefer Hosea in the context, or at least the beginning of Hosea, as a context of Hosea saying, Hashem machlifem b'uma acheret, right? Hashem says to Hosea, my banecha chatu, right? They work at the Sefer of the Zara, and Hosea says, okay, you have lots of nations. Change them with someone else. And Hashem says that's the wrong answer. And then he has to teach him a lesson. And the lesson he teaches him is through his marriage to a unworthy woman who he's supposed to have children from. And then at some point, as the Midrash says, Hashem tells him, get rid of her. And he says, I can't get rid of her. And Hashem says, you can't get rid of her? I can't get rid of Am Yisrael. That's how Chazal play out these prakim. Where exactly the change happens. So this is what we're going to see a little bit in our perek.
Is Hosea encouraging Hashem to get rid of Am Yisrael?
That's what he does at first.
Oh, okay.
That's what he said. That's his reaction. Hashem gets very upset at that because that's not. We talked about this a lot. It's not the prophet's job.
Is this before or after Eliyahu?
This is a good question. It's after Eliyahu. So that's right. We said Eliyahu has one. He may be a prophet who sounds a little bit like that at some point. Beseder. Tov. So then we saw, if you guys remember, he has 3 children from this woman. He has Israel.
2 children and 1 grandchild.
No, 3 children. Israel, a son. Lo Ruchama, a daughter, and Lo Ami, a son. And then the of yesterday, we saw last lesson. We saw the Gilgul of the times that different Mefarshim had this relating to different periods of time. This is this king, and this is this king, and this is this king. Remember, everyone agrees that we're talking towards the end, and historically, we're at the very end of Malchut Yisrael. At the end of Malchut Yisrael, this is the beginning of the end, we said, of Malchut Yisrael. And then, but to understand how and why, that's when we opened Perek Yud Gimel in Melachim, Bet, where we saw the story of Yehu's ascension to power. And we said Yehu is a prophet comes and anoints him as king. We said it's a unique happenstance in Malchut Yisrael to have a king anointed by Hashem. Malchut Yisrael was sort of the bad boys on the block. After Yerovam breaks off, and even though he has a chance of making a Malchut, he chooses to go off the derech, and Hashem is not so happy with Malchut Yisrael. And he and Bigadol, the kings there are not, B'chir Hashem. It's politics what happens there. But Yehu, as opposed to most other kings, he has a chance. So Yehu goes and he does Hashem's will and kills all of Beit Achav, very, very bloodily, he does it very well. Let's put it that way. Okay, and we see the name, and everything's happening. Everything happens in Yisrael. That's where it happens physically in Yisrael, Emek Yisrael, which we said is somewhere around Afula. That area. That's where all these events happen. That's where he kills all the kids. That's where he kills Izevel. that's where things happen. It's as revenge for what Achav did to Navot ha-Yisraeli, Navot, who had the field next to Achav's house, and Achav takes from him through killing him, and Eliyahu gives a very powerful nivuah as a result of that. So all this is Yisrael, and the word Yisrael, at first glance and first time you hear it, is a pretty positive word. Yisrael, Hashem will plant. Hashem will put the seed in, right? Yisrael. I mean, begadol, it sounds like a good statement, but it sounds in the context of the three children. If the second one's called Lo Ruchama and the other one's called Lo Ami, it sounds like Israel is not in the best interest. If there's a continuation of the three, he seems to be also, he should also be not so good. So our question here is, as we saw him say, if you guys look in Hosea Perek Aleph, Pasuk Daled, Vayomer Adonai elav, Kra shmo Yisrael, כי עוד מעט ופקדתי את דמי ישראל על בית יהוא, והשבעתי ממלכות בית ישראל. והיה ביום ההוא ושברתי את קשת ישראל בעמק יזרעאל. Right, a lot of playing here with Yisrael and Israel, and Hosea likes to, and will continue playing with them as he goes on. But there's something wrong. In other words, as opposed to Yehu, who we saw, the great Yehu, who does what he should be doing, suddenly we see here that Hashem is giving a negative prophecy about Israel. So to be able to understand why we have a negative prophecy of Israel, we just have to finish up the story of Yehu. The story of Yehu begins very positively, if a little violently, as he goes and he does his job very, very well. Sorry, I was wrong. It was Perek Tet. It wasn't Pasuk Perek Yud Gimel. Nothing bet. Tov. So he kills Izevel. If you guys open up Perek Yud, go Melachim Bet Perek Yud. Okay, we're going to go a little more history here. It's fascinating because a lot of people don't know these prakim at all. Okay, these are like the lost prakim of Sefer Melachim. Most people have no idea that these Melachim Bet. No one has any idea they exist. What? Yeah, Perek Yud. So please, anyone who has the Tanakh.
902.
Excuse
In
me?
the green Tanakh.
902 in the green Tanakh. Thank you. For anyone who doesn't have the green Tanakh, Melachim Bet Perek Yud. You know by heart. You have to get up. We have to get up and let's go. Beseder. Yeah, that's it. Beseder. So the Perek starts. Perek Yud is as Ezra read correctly. We're still in Israel. He says like this. Achav's children, as is correct in most dictatorships, have positions of power throughout Emek Yisrael and throughout the area. And Yehu sort of sends to the people and says to the elders of the cities and says, I want you guys to dispose of them quickly. And if not, it's not going to be good. And they have to decide what they're going to do. And what they do is they take the 70 children and they chop their heads off. I'm in Pasuk Zayin. ויקבו הספר עליהם ויקחו את בני המלך וישחטו 70 איש וישימו את ראשיהם בדודים וישלחו אליו ישראל. This is like we've almost left Judaism and gone into some kind of crusader thing. They cut their heads off, they put them in pots, and they send them to Yehu. ויבוא המלאך ויגד לו ויאמר הביאו ראשי בני המלך ויאמר שימו אותם שני ציבורים פתח השער עד בוקר. Dump the heads in piles by the gates until the morning.
It's not that different than like David delivering the Philistine forces.
It is different because that was a unique transaction between him and Shaul. Here, this is first of all they're killing Jews. He's killing Jews here. This is Beit Achav. Okay, and to pile heads and it's not. David didn't take the orlot and hang them up. It wasn't something that was done.
When Pinchas killed the two
Zimri and yeah.
Were they immediately taken down, or were they put up for a certain?
No, mamash not put up. We don't know. Not that we know of. They were killed, and so I mean, he holds them up to show the people that they're dead, and that's it. There's no. We don't tend to have bodies around. It's not a Jewish thing to do.
Well, you're not allowed to keep a hanging body up.
Exactly. So
I mean, there are other examples.
They're cutting. They cut off Adoni Tzedek's thumbs in the beginning of Shoftim. We'll see. What?
Bnei Haman, they left them hanging.
Oh, Bnei Haman, that's already the king's. The king does that also. I mean, they're going who do that. She asks, but the goyim do it. In other words, the goyim do what the goyim do. Anyway, whatever. Yehu's very violent. Okay, and so they put it. Vayi baboker v'etzeh ve'amod ve'yomer l'kolam tzadikim atem. Hine kashalti al Adoni v'argehu umika et kol ele du efo ki lo yipol. He says you're also complicit in what I'm doing. I killed him, but you killed the son, so now you're part of it with me. He's a good politician. And if you guys look at Pasuk Yud Aleph, Vayach Yehu et kol hanisharim lebet achav b'Yisrael, v'chol gdolav u'miyudav v'choanav al bilti shir lo sarid. And then he goes to Shomron, and on the way he finds Vayu metzat achei Achaziyahu. He finds the brothers of the king of Judah, who he said is from the house of Achav also. Vayomer mi atem, vayomru achei Achaziyahu anachnu, v'nered lishlom bnei hamelech u'bnei hagmira. We're coming to visit. They don't know what this is all happening immediately. This all happens like in a day or two. So they're saying we went to visit our brother, the king. Vayomer tifsum chaim, vayitfesum chaim v'ishchatum el בור בית עקר 42 איש ולא השאיר איש מכם. 42 more. Let's go. Kills them all. Okay, then he goes on.
The job done, basically.
What? He gets the job done very, very well. Then the continuation of the parak tells us a great story where a Yehu sends out into all of Israel, and he says this great line. He says, Achav avad et ha'baal me'at, Yehu yavdenu harbe. Achav, he was minor leagues. I'm major leagues. Yehu, Achav, he's nothing. You think he served the Baal? Why? Wait to see what I'm going to do. I want everyone who ever served the Baal, all the Kohanim, all the servers of Baal, come to this big Beit HaBaal, all together in a couple of days, whatever, tomorrow, whenever it is. You come here. We're going to make up the biggest, greatest Baal sacrifice ever seen to man. Wow. Everyone there. Each Baal there. Everyone has to be there. Kol asher yipaked lo yichyeh. If you're not there, you're dead. If you don't come, you die. Yehu throws this out. Everyone has to be there. So when they all come and they're all in Beit HaBaal, Yehu tells his boys, guys, everyone's here. Lock the gates. And it's slaughter time. And they go in and he kills all Nevi'ei HaBaal, all of day, not Nevi'ei, it was a trick. All Kohanei HaBaal, he kills everybody. And he destroys the Baal until it says, Vayashmed in Pasuka Kafchet, Vayashmed Yehu et HaBaal Misrael. Now Hashem says, now comes very interesting. We have Pasuk Kaftet. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why the hell did he say that if you don't come, we're going to kill you?
Yehu says because he wants everyone to be there.
It's a test. He wants to kill everybody?
Yes, he wants to kill all of the Baal. He is a zealot from the land of zealots, Yehu. But when he's we saw him, right? Remember, he drives crazily. Remember when he comes with his horse driving nuts? Everyone knows who he is. Yeah. And he's a interesting man, Yehu. Okay, let's put it. Let's be careful with our words. He's an interesting man. He was wisely chosen to be the one who destroys Beit Achav from the top to the bottom. He may be the only one who could have done it. Also, he has no restraints, and he goes and kills them all. But Yehu's purpose after this What is he supposed to do after he does this job?
Well, he's anointed king.
Let's take a look. Look at Pasuk, they're in Perek Yud, the end of Perek Yud, Pasuk Kaf Tet. רק חטאי ירובעם בן נבט אשר החטיא את ישראל לא שר יהוא מאחריהם. עגלי הזהב אשר בית אל ואשר בדן. So Yehu is pretty good as kings of Israel go. He pulls the, right, we said that Achav institutionalized the Avodah Zarah. Right, we said that was a huge chet of Achav. So Yehu takes that out. Yehu changes that again. The service of Hashem is the service, but he doesn't really go the whole way. He only goes halfway. He doesn't reopen for the Jews to go back to Yerushalayim. Right. He keeps Yerovam. And now look how the Tanakh judges him. Look at Pasuk Lamed. ויאמר אדוני אל יהוא, יען אשר היטבת לעשות הישר בעיניי, ככל אשר בלבבי עשית לבית אחאב. בני רביעים ישבו לך על כיסא ישראל. You're going to have, because you did everything, you did well, like I wanted you to do to Beit Achav, you will have 4 generations on the throne. But then look at the judgment. ויהוא לא שמר ללכת בתורת אדוני אלוהי ישראל בכל לבבו. לא שר מעל חטאות ירבעם אשר החטיא את ישראל. He didn't really do what he should be, and now look suddenly what happens. בימים ההם החל אדוני לקצות בישראל, ויקם חזאל בכל גבול ישראל. So the king of Aram starts really causing trouble, and now look here. מן הירדן מזרח השמש, את כל ארץ הגלעד, הגדי והרובוני והמנשי, מהרוער אשר על נחל ארנון והגלעד והבשן. In Yehu's time, who starts paying the price? The Ever-Yarden, the 2.5 tribes, the Ever-Yarden start paying the price. And where's Hosea from? Where's Hosea from? From Reuven. Reuven. We said he's from Reuven. In other words, Hosea is directly affected by Yehu's sins.
Do you think there's any significance to that it's Aram and not anyone else?
Why?
It seems like Aram is curious.
They're the ones at this point. This is Aram's time. This is their time in history.
This is the character of Aram being like the cultural center of the time and kind of this great assimilator where you see like Nahor go to Aram, and then by the time you get his grandson Lavan, he's an Aramean, no longer an Ivri. I wonder if that has to do with anything. I
don't know. This is Aram way later than that. This may be a completely different Aram for our purposes. Aram hasn't really been so present. This is their time to shine in our history. This is when they are the dangerous enemy of the north. There's always an enemy in the north. It's their time this time. Right, Aram, Ashur, Bavel. That's the Retzif. Anyway, so this is the story of Yehu, and here, if we go back to Hosea, Hashem is saying, I am going to demand the blood of Bet, right? The blood. What does he say? Vakadit et Dmei Yisrael et Bet Yehu. Dmei Yisrael, the blood of Israel. So what blood of Israel are they talking about? Whose blood? Who's the only blood? There was a lot of blood in Israel. Whose blood was it? Beit Achav. But on the other hand, Hashem said, you did exactly what I wanted to. And here is the hint of what Yisrael means. And we'll see it as we go on. Yisrael, Hashem planted a seed. What happens is up to you. Hashem gave the chance for Beit Yehu to be a mamlacha, and they didn't take the chance. They messed up. To be there's always a question: can Yehuda and Israel coexist at the same time? So it seemed to be at first, the very first one was broken up in the first. Chia Shiloni, when he talks to Yerovam, it seems like he really gives them a chance to be another kingdom. In other words, because of Shlomo's sins, it's broken. We're going to have 2 kingdoms from now on. There's a real, but it's a real chance for it to be lichatchila almost. In other words, now it broke. We'll have 2 kingdoms. It's okay. It seems to be. And then Yerovam goes off and does all the sins that he does. And from then on, all Mamlechet Yisrael is under the sins of Yerovam from then on. Because they never rectified it until the last king, Hosea ben Elah. To be a Mamlachat Yisrael. I don't know, Mamlacha Kedosha, Mamlacha Be'am Yisrael. I would say, I don't know how to call it, because when you say Yisrael, it's
Rambam
Yehuda.
says a mamlacha is the body that issues currency. So like,
I'm saying,
on that level.
I'm saying on the higher spiritual level, they can exist on their own. They don't have to be under Beit David. That it seemed to be that was a chance, and then Yerovam misses it, and here Yehu gets some kind of this is a chance. This is a second chance of Mamlechet Yisrael. It's their only second chance, and Yehu at first does what could appear, now so it's not clear, right? What he does to Beit Achav on the one hand is what Hashem commanded. On the other hand, anyone reading the chapters moves uncomfortably in their seat by the amount of the stories there, the heads, and he finds these guys, coming to visit their brother, and he slaughters them all. It's not, there are other stories like that. You know where another stories like that is? Gedalia ben Achikam. After they kill him, then there are people on their way to Beit HaMikdash to mourn Beit HaMikdash, and Ishmael, the guy who killed Gedalia, finds them too, he kills them all. It's that same motion. Oh, they just find them and they kill them. You move uncomfortably with what Yehu. But on the other hand, he did what Hashem told him. But when he doesn't continue in the way of Hashem, then limafreya, when you read backward, and you're saying, 1 second. So all the murder you did it wasn't in the holy light, only in the holy light. It was tainted. That blood you spilled. It's tainted. That's what Hosea is saying here. He's saying to Yerovam ben Yoash, the third child from Yehu, the third of the four kings who are going to build Yehu's grandson. He's saying in Yerovam's time, he's saying, the blood of Yerovam, we see it now, only lemafreya, only after the fact can we see that the blood that was spilled there wasn't spilled in the correct fashion.
This reminds me of what you said about Yeshua and the Brit Milah. You need to justify the violence.
I mean, you have to be on a high musari level, on a high ethical level, to be able
use
to...
the sword against yourself before you do it.
Exactly what we learned.
By not following through, he's showing that it's completely unjustified.
I don't know if it's completely unjustified. Hashem says kudos for doing it. He gives him kudos, directed. But he gives him kudos, but it's not complete. And once it's not complete, then it's tainted. That's what Hosea is saying. There's the blood of Achav is still there. In other words, had you done it in order to reestablish Malchut Hashem, that's legitimate, like you're saying, Yishai. But when you do it to reestablish your own rule, and then you go off and do things you want to do, and don't follow Ritzon Hashem, that's probably, it's more than questionable. It's worse than questionable.
Did he have four after? Was it four?
Yeah, four. Yeah. Yerovam ben Nevat has one more child, and then that's that. Yerovam not ben Nevat. Yerovam ben Yoash. There's Yehu. No, not Yoash. Zechariah is the first. What do you have? You have Yehu. Yoash. Yoachaz.
Ben Yehu.
Really? I don't remember Yoachaz. Yehu, Yoachaz, Yoash, Yerovam, Zechariah. So it's 5 generations. So maybe 4 from him. That would be the thing. I don't know. It says Dor Revi.
So they're all his.
They're all his. Yeah. Zechariah is the last one.
Okay.
Beseder. So here now we understand that Hashem, when he calls his son Yisrael here, he's referencing something that's very, very fresh in the minds of his generation. Okay, he's referencing Dmei Yehu. Yisrael and Yehu go together completely. Everyone understands. Yisrael is the seat of the kingdom, right? And that's where there was a big bloodbath not long ago. And Hashem says, I Yisrael'd you, I gave you a chance, and you guys, lo ruchamad. What does that mean? Lo ruchamad means a rechem is a womb. A zera is a seed. There is a very clear, Yisrael, lo ruchama, I planted the seed, you didn't grow it. You didn't have it. So here I'm not saying lo ruchama as I won't lerachem. You weren't a rechem. You failed in becoming ami. So instead of having zera, rechem, am, there was a zera, and there was no rechem and no am. That's the retzef here that's happening with the children. In other words, Hashem says, I allowed this to happen and you messed it up. Lo ruchama, lo ami. That's what happened. At the end of the day, you weren't able to accept the mission of being my nation, and therefore you lost it. Tov. Very unnerving ending, right? We said, Lo ami v'anochi lo lechem. We said, Ani lo lechem kanireh Elohim. That's, everyone says, that's the continuation. All the commentaries said. But now we're going to take a look at Perek Bet. Yeah.
So even with all this, why elevate the name of Chav? If it's
Of Achav?
yes, that we're going and making retribution for his blood. Am I getting something wrong?
Well, yeah, it's retribution for the blood he spilled.
Yehu.
It's on Yehu. Yehu spilled Achav's blood,
Right.
Beit Achav. But he only was allowed to do that if you're going to bring something better.
Right. No,
So he brings something halfway better. Halfway isn't enough to do what you could do. You know, if you're murdering so many people, you better go the whole way. To murder someone and go halfway is not what it's not. It's exactly what we said. It's Yaakov says to his children, right? If ashtem oteh v'ashtem techenu b'nei you achartanu, right? We said the word achar. That's what we said. You muddied the waters. Remember when we learned Yeshua? You're muddying it. You can't do something if you're not clean. If you're not clean.
Chav is not mentioned.
No. Chav's not mentioned. The Mei Yisrael al Beit Yehu. We're saying that's the reference here. Beseder. We're going on to Perek Bet, everybody. Okay, Perek Bet is a fascinating case study in Parshanut. Why? Because Perek Bet, after this really harsh prophecy, suddenly flips to a beautiful, beautiful prophecy. And then it flips back to a not beautiful prophecy. And we have to and then flips back to another beautiful prophecy. So all this happens in Perek Bet. So we're going to have to hold on tight. And we're going to see how commentators have different opinions how to read these psukim. Okay? Yalla. Ve'haya mispar. I'm in Perek Bet in Hosea. This is now we're going to go on to our new page. Ve'haya mispar bnei Yisrael kechol hayam asher lo yimad ve'lo yisafer ve'haya bimkom asher ya'amer lehem lo ami atem ya'amer lehem bnei el chai. ונקבצו בני יהודה ובני ישראל יחדיו, ושמו להם ראש אחד, ועלו מן הארץ, כי גדול יום ישראל. אמרו לאחיכם עמי, ולאחותיכם רוחמה. So, obviously, I hope people followed me here. He flipped the names, right? Lo Ami becomes Ami, and Lo Ruchama becomes Ruchama. And Israel is mentioned here. Everything is wonderful. Everything flips. Here we are fixing the prophecy. That's what it seems to be. Right? So here, without warning, Hosea suddenly goes into a wonderful prophecy that flips the names, that takes the names that were, at first, we said, negative, and here they turns into positive. Again, I'll read just the psukim just to explain. The numbers of Bnei Yisrael, Mispar Bnei Yisrael, Kechol Hayam, they will be like the sand on the seashore. Asher Chol Hayam, the sand of the sea. Asher Lo Yimad V'Lo Yisafer, cannot be measured and cannot be counted. V'ya Bimkom Asher Ya'amer Lehem Lo Ami Atem, instead of being said they are not my nation, they will be told, they will be called the sons of a living God. V'nikbetzu bnei Yehuda u'bnei Yisrael yachdav. The children of Yehuda and the children of Israel will gather together. V'samu lehem rosh echad, and they will have one leader to lead them. Ve'alu min haaretz, and they will arise or go up from the land. Ki gadol yom Yisrael, because the day of Yisrael is a great day, something called Yom Yisrael. Is that like Yom Atzmaut? Yom Yisrael. It's a day. What is Yom Yisrael? We have to see. Okay? Imru la'achechem ami. Now say to your brethren, my people, and to your sisters, Ruchama. So without really understanding exactly what he's referencing, it's very, very positive. Obviously, something's being flipped. That's what your immediate feeling is. The problem is the next couple of psukim. Well, let's stop for a minute. First of all, the problem is it went very quick between the harsh nevuah to the great nevuah, to the nice nevuah. It's very quick. No explanation in the middle. No ve'aya bayom ahu, what we sort of expect, right? Or la acharita ayamim, some kind of reference. What are you talking about? He says ve'aya mispar bnei Israel. When, where, who, when are you referencing? What's going on here? And now he's talking about bnei Yehuda. Also, he brought them in, bnei Yehuda. We haven't had bnei Yehuda playing in our court until now, right? Suddenly we were referencing Israel. We saw he's talking to Mamlechet Yisrael. Everything worked well with Mamlechet Yisrael. He says Mamluchut Beit Yisrael. He says Beferush in Pasuk Dalet. Where is Yehuda coming into this play, Bichlal? Why is he mentioning Yehuda? Why we never talked about them before?
Well, it says Yom Ha'u. It's talking about Geulah.
Where does it say by Yom Ha'u?
You said that. I thought you just read
It doesn't say that. That would be nice if it said that. I agree with you.
Where are you just reading from?
Ve'haya mispar bnei Yisrael, it says. It doesn't say Vayom Ha'u. You could say
What's the v'haya?
V'haya bayom ha'u. Maybe that's what's sort of missing. It's like it's it's there. It's just only smart people can see it. V'haya mispar, but it says V'haya means the future, right? Haya is the past. V'haya v'lavaypuch turns it to the future. V'haya is talking about the future. What future? When are we talking about? And why are you bringing this right here? And what's going on? Thank you, Hosea. We're not exactly sure what's going on, even though it's beautiful psukim. Now let's go on a little and get even more confused, okay? We're going to learn like a chunk of psukim. This chunk of psukim is a very vivid mashal. Very, very vivid mashal of Hashem and his, or a man and his unfaithful wife. And she's pretty unfaithful, okay? Let's take a look. Rivu bi'imchem rivu. Fight with your mother, fight. Ki hi lo ishti, v'anochi lo isha. Because she's not my wife, and I'm not her husband. Isha, with a mepik hey, is her ish. Okay, there's isha, right? You see the pasuk. Ani lo, hi lo ishti, she's not my wife. V'anochi lo isha, her ish. Okay? Vataser znunea mipanea, v'na'afufea mi ben shadea. Tell her to get rid of her children who are from unfaithfulness, and na'afufea mi ben shadea, and the people she's lying with between her breasts.
I have a question. Are her children mamzerim?
They're at least fake mamzerim. We talked about this before.
Yeah.
Pen afshitena uma. Otherwise, unless, or give me a better word for pen. Give me a better word, pen.
Nor.
No. What does he say of pen? The very beginning of Pasuk Hey. Lest. That's our word. Lest. We had that word. Remember? Lest. We like that word.
Otherwise.
Lest is great. Lest
is more.
Lest I will strip her naked, and I will show her just in her birthday suit. V'samtia kamidbar, and I will put her as the desert, and her drinking will be like, or shatia ke'eretz emiyah, and I will put her as a barren land, and I will kill her in thirst, and I will not have mercy on her children. V'banea lo arachem, arachem, right? Banim again. Kivnei znunim ema, those are the children of unfaithfulness. Ki zanta imam. Hovisha oratam. Her mother has been unfaithful with a strong word. Hovisha oratam. They have been completely embarrassed, their parents. Ki amra elcha acharei me'avai notnei lachmi umimi tzamri upishti shamni v'shikuyai. Because she said, I will follow my lovers, those who give me bread and water and wool and linen and yain and drink. Lachen hineni shachet darkech basirim. I'm going to block you from going to your lovers with thorns. וגדרתי את גדריה ונתיבותיה לא תמצא. I'm going to cut up all the roads and stop the paths. ורדפת מאביה ולא תשיג אותם. She's going to chase after her lovers, but she won't get them. וביקשתם ולא תמצא. She'll search for them and she won't find them. And then she'll say, ואמרה, אלך ואשובה על אישי הראשון, כי טוב לי אז מעתה. Then she'll say, oh, maybe I'll go back to my first husband, because maybe it was better with him than now. והיא לא ידעה. She doesn't know. כי אנוכי נתתי לה דגן עתירו היצהר, והכסף הרביתי לה, וזהב עשו לבעל. She denies that I'm the one who gave her everything. Everything she always had. It was me who gave it to her. She denies this. She took it, and then the things I gave her, she used to the Baal, to Avodah Zarah. Therefore, Hashem says, even though she's searching for her way back, לכן אשוב ולקחתי דיינים איתו, ותירושי במועדו. I'm going to take everything back. והצלתי צמרי ופשתי לכסות את ערוותם. I'm going to keep the linen and the wool from clothing her nakedness. ועתה אגלה את נבלותה לעיני מאביה. I'm going to show her repulsiveness in the eyes of all her lovers. ואיש לא יצילנה מידי, and no one's going to save her from my hands. והשבעתי כל מסוסה, חגה, חודשה, שבתה וכל מועדה. No holidays going on here. והשימותי גפנה ותאנתה אשר אמרה אתנה המה לי אשר נתנו לי מאהבי. I'm going to take away all her prados that she said, these are for me, these were my payments for what I've done, that my lovers gave me, and I'll put them I'll put them out in hefker. ואכלתם חיית השדה. ופקדתי עליה את ימי הבעלים אשר תקתי להם ותעד נזמה וחלייתה ותלך אחרי מאביה, ואותי שכחה נאום אדוני. I will make her pay for all the days that she serviced these other husbands, these other gods, I'm going back and forth in the Machal and the Nimshal, in the parable and the interpretation, and all these lovers, and she's going to pay for all this time because she forgot me. Ouch. Okay? Powerful prophecy. Frightening prophecy. Vivid prophecy. And we don't come out very well in this prophecy, as I hope everyone understood that we are the woman in this case, and Hashem is the husband. But so how does that play into what we just said about the previous prophecy? Right? We just said it was a positive. The first three psukim are these wonderful, don't say you're not my child, you are my child, lo rachem, ken rachem, Israel, gadol yom Israel.
And right into it.
And then right into it, not even a parashiyah ptucha. Great question. Are we the parents and the kids? Who are we in this? And when it says rivu be'imchem rivu, who are they talking to? Fight with your mother, fight. Who's the we? Who's supposed to fight with our mother? Who's the mother and who's the we? Who's going on here?
It seems like we're not the mother. It seems like we're the kids. The mother is something else.
Who's the mother?
I'm gonna hazard to guess that it's the political leadership that's driving them to the Baal.
Okay, interesting. So you're differentiating between the children who are born out of this, in the sense it's not their fault per se, as opposed to the mother who takes the main blame, who is the leadership.
Maybe King of Judah?
The King of Judah. Well, in this whole mashal, there's no reference of either Yisrael or Yehuda.
No, it says here in the chapter 2, Pasuk 2, Judah is mentioned.
In Pasuk 2, of course. No, he said the first three psukim are what I said are the positive prophecy. That mentions Yehuda. We're surprised that it mentions Yehuda, even though we know he prophesied in the days of the kings of Judah, he says in the beginning. But up until now, we haven't seen anything about Yehuda, and suddenly Yehuda mentioned. Now again, they're not mentioned throughout these psukim I just read to you. Psukim Daled to Tetvav.
Completely, I don't know.
Just a really bad parable. an unfortunate one. So what's going on here? Okay, so this is my question. And now I'll just say, the rest of the parak is positive again. Okay, from Pasuk Tedvav till Pasuk Kafhei, wonderfully positive prophecy, with some of the most amazing words in the Tanakh. Ve'aras tichli le'olam. What you say when you put on the tefillin? Ve'aras tichli. Do we know this? When you put on the tefillin, when you wrap it around your fingers, you're supposed to say, "These are beautiful, beautiful psukim. They're right here. Pasuk Kaf Aleph. That's our pasuk. It's right here. These are some of the most beautiful, beautiful psukim there are. And what's happening there? Okay, so what is going on here, people? Let's take a look at what our Mefarshim B'Rov Gudlam, in their greatness, asked these same questions, and each gave a different answer. So let's start off with Rashi. Okay? Says Rashi, Vaya mispar, ma inyan puranut v'nechama smuchim b'dibur echad. What is going on here? Why is there puranut, evil tidings, destruction, and consolation, smuchim b'dibur echad, connected in one sentence, in one dibur, in one statement. Okay, that's how Rashi starts off Perek Aleph, feeling the same way we did. What is going on here? How are we moving? V'rabotenu pirshu b'psachim, hirgish Hosea be'atzmo shechata. So Chazal say this is Hosea's reaction. We saw this midrash already, and we said, in other words, how will you slot the midrash in at different points? So the midrash slots on it before Hosea, as it started before the book of Hosea. Hosea, when Hashem tells him, Hosea, go marry this woman, that's after Hosea already said, Tachlifim b'umam echeret, switch them. Then we have all of Perek Aleph. And inside of Perek Aleph, according to Rashi's understanding of where to put in the Midrash, at the end of Perek Aleph, Hashem says to Hosea, and this doesn't say, he says, get rid of her. That's important.
Sorry, it doesn't say.
According to Rashi's understanding of Chazal, right, who gave us a whole story of Hosea and Hashem, right? So there was a first part that Hosea says, and then he says, go marry this thing. And then afterwards, what does he say to him? He says, now divorce her. Right? That's what Chazal said in the story. Right. And then Hosea says, I can't divorce her. She's my wife. And then Hashem says to him, you don't know his wife you only married for a little bit, and the kids you don't know for your kids, Bichlal. You have trouble divorcing her? Am Yisrael, I can't divorce them. Are you crazy? I can't lachlifam ba'am acher. And then Hosea starts bevakesh rachamim al atzmo, right? And then Hashem says, until you ask rachamim al atzmecha, תבקש רחמים על עם ישראל. פתח הושע ואומר, והיה מספר בני ישראל ככל הים אשר ויספר מרב. Right? So Rashi says, why is these couple psukim of consolation here? Because it's Hosea's reaction to the event that happened there. Hosea is saying, wow, Hashem, I'm sorry, Be'emet, Am Yisrael is a great nation. In a sense, that's what's happening here. But let's go on.
Right, so this is Hosea saying the beginning of Bet.
For sure. Everything's a prophecy. Everything's prophecy. It's not Hosea saying it per se in himself. But it's Hosea reacting, Hosea internalizing that even though it seems like they're lo ruchama and lo ami, at the end of the day, they are ruchama and ami. Okay, there's no real breaking the bind. That's the beginning of Perek Bet. Now, after Perek Aleph reached a point, an apex, I'm using that word too much, that you're not their nation anymore. We didn't know that could happen, right? We silly Jews like us, we thought we're always going to be Hashem's children in some sense, and it turns out we're not. That's what Hosea said. So here's a rectification of that. No, you will still be his children. Okay, at some point, right? We said haya. It's haya. At some point in the future, you will return to be his children.
Is it now?
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think it might be now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Keep that thought. Keep that thought. No, he's saying this period of this generation. Could be. Keep the thought, Ezra, because people are going to discuss when this is supposed
That's
to happen.
bad. I just made a prophecy on a direct date, so now you're gonna know if I'm a real prophet.
Was it a good prophecy?
It was a good prophecy.
That's correct.
I backed myself into a
Yes,
corner.
you did. You did.
Yeah, I really
Yes,
got
but luckily you didn't say Hashem told me this.
I put my well-known status as a prophet into public jeopardy.
Yes, your credence, your
Credibility.
credibility.
We're going to put in the calendar.
Tov, ubesifrei de Beirav, Parashat Vayeshev Yisrael Beshitim. So in the Sifrei and Bamidbar, Shaninu, Rabbi Omer, listen to what this is exactly, Rabbi's reaction to these psukim are our reaction. Rabbi Udanasi, Omer, Yesh parshiot smuchot zo lazo, ורחוקות זו מזו כרחוק מזרח וממערב. כי אתם לא עמי, והיה מספר בני ישראל ככל הים. מה העניין זה אצל זה? So he says there are some parshas that are close to each other, and they're so far away. Like they're close to chronologically, but they're far like west to east. And this is the example he brings: two parshas that are together, but then he goes, 1 second. How do we explain this? Why are they connected? This is a churban, this is a puranut, and this is nechama. Mashal melech שכעס על אשתו, ושלח אחר הסופר לבוא ולכתוב לה גט. So here we're getting a whole new storyline. A mashal for a mashal. Hashem, a king, angry at his wife, he calls the scribe to write a get. עד שלא בא הסופר נתרצה המלך לאשתו. Till the sofer got there, till the scribe got there, he says second thoughts. אמר המלך, אפשר יצא סופר זה מכאן חלוק? Says what? Can the guy leave empty-handed, not writing anything, that he didn't do anything? כלומר, ליבו חלוק ותוהה לומר, למה שלח אחריי? And Rashi explains, so like, in other words, saying, what does the king want? What, he's making fun of me? He's playing games with me? What am I doing here? אמר לו, בוא וכתוב לה שאני כופה לה כתובתה. This is another explanation that he says, after thinking about divorcing her, Perek Aleph is a thought process of Hashem. Hashem saying, I don't want her. It's like the anger, just the anger. But then in between Perek Aleph and Perek Bet, there's a space. See, there's a space here, look. And in that space, Hashem rethinks what's going on there. And then he says, I made a mistake. I don't want to divorce her. But the guy's here. The Sefer came. The scribe is here. And he has his things. He's ready to write. Got to write something. He can't leave empty-handed. So let's give her double the ketubah. I'm doubling her ketubah. That's what he says. I'm doubling her ketubah. והיה מספר בני ישראל שלא יימד ולא יספר. Not only lo yisafer, lo yimad. He adds on that there will be greater than what Hashem said to Avram, even more than what Avram said, than what was said to Avram. In other words, okay, that's the story. That just explains like what are these two doing one after another. But I think also it gives us a rhythm, and it's an important rhythm in understanding prophecies. Prophecies of Churban, prophecies of Puranut, often are, we'll say, Hashem's thoughts through anger. Okay? It's Hashem's reaction to the world, to us, in a certain level. But that's the anger time. And then there's a thought when he's not in anger. And when he's not in anger, then things sound different. We have to remember, I think this is an important statement, important understanding, that there are periods of time in history where there are periods of anger. Hashem is angry at us. You could feel them. We felt them not that long ago. But those periods of angers are, in a sense, they're an external expression of Hashem. They are when Hashem is, as we're going to say in the next parashiot, when he covers his face, when he moves his face away, when he's not looking at us. Those are Rega avor zam, right? They're psukim that say that Hashem, the anger passes, right? There's an anger. I'll be very angry, and then it will pass. So a lot of the prophecies are Hashem's anger. Now those they're going to happen, or they could happen. But there's always another level of this v'nitratzalo, right? It doesn't say in the story why the king suddenly loves his wife, right? It stops being angry at his wife. She didn't do anything. She didn't beg mercy. She didn't fall at his feet. Machon? It's an interesting story. I think in that storyline, it's an important statement. Be'emet, it's not the queen. It's not the queen. She's not the story. It's the king's reaction to the queen. And at times, the anger bubbles up to the front. And then there's always a time of reconciliation, right? That's the word? Mm-hmm. Reconciliation? Either way. Reconciliation. So this is an important statement about how prophecies work. And when you see the tough prophecies, very, very often, you'll see nechamot also. Prophecies often they mix up. They're mixed up, often. Their prophecies are harsh, and then suddenly you have a new. And in the Haftorot, we always try to put good wording at the end of the Haftorot, right? So they don't end harshly, but it's inherent. It's a real thing to do that. Hosea shows the way in this statement, according to Rashi. Hosea shows the way that there's harsh and then not harsh. You have to understand there are two levels. There's like an immediate reaction of Hashem that has its effect on Am Yisrael, guys. It's not fun to live in that immediate reaction, period. But there's always an afterwards. There's always a reconciliation. Always. There's the anger of what you've done, but there's always a reconciliation. So that's the second perush Rashi brings. And then he says, "Udefi pshuto, kach ismichuto, ki atem lo ami, v'anichi lo yeh lachem, er'e atzmi ki'ilu yineh lachem." I'm going to show as if I'm not your God. V'tiglu leven ha'umot, and you will be thrown into exile. And this is the basic understanding that Rashi starts here, and almost all the Parshanim continue him, that the next story of being thrown into Galut, that's what's happening. When Hashem says, Afshitena aruma, I will show her to all her lovers, I will throw her in the desert. All these expressions are expressions of exile, Galut. Almost everyone explains it this way. Okay? Rashi starts us off here. Teglu ve'af sham tirbu v'titzmechu v'sham tashuvu el levavchen לשוב אליי, כמו שנאמר ידי משה, והשבות על לבבך בכל הגויים אשר ידיחך שמה, ושב השם אלוהיך את שבותך, אף כאן ונקבצו בני יהודה ובני ישראל יחדיו. So Hashem says the anger of the very end of Perek Aleph, it ends saying lo ami. In what way are we lo ami? When we're in exile. But hey, the story continues. Parshat Nitzavim, we're going to read it on Shabbat. This Shabbat, we're going to read how even when you're in the land of exiles, Hashem still loves you and He's not despairing of you, and you'll come back. Says Rashi, that's the smichut here. In other words, this is just the story of Am Yisrael being thrown into exile and then come back. What's going to happen in the psukim afterwards are going back to Perek Aleph, and they're going to specify the galut, what happens there and how it's going to work. And then the end of the chapter is going to specify these three things. In other words, Perek Bet is taking Perek Aleph and
Macro and micro.
It adds, the first three psukim in Perek Bet are sort of the continuation of Perek Aleph. That's one story. Now we're going to micro you. We're going to go into what it means when you're not Ami and you're not Ruchama. What does it mean when that happens, when you're out in exile? And then what does it mean that Hashem does love you and will bring you back? Okay? That's going to be how the chapters work. So Rashi sort of sees it as a two-part. Okay? Aleph, beginning of Bet, continuation of bet, end of bet. Okay, it works. Tuck, tuck. If you guys want me to put it on the board, we have. Well, let's put it puranut, which means evil thinkings. This is Perek Aleph.
End of all.
Perek Aleph. Nechama bet Aleph ad Gimel. Puranut bet Daled ad Tetvav. Nechama bet Tetzayin ad Kafei, if I remember correctly. Is that though? You see that? You guys see what? This is the structure that we're expecting to see. Is that though? So that's how Rashi reads it, and therefore he staggers the nevuot. Bad, good, bad, good. That's really what happens. Okay? The Malbim continues in Rashi's path, and he says like this: Kirov hachol. He's talking about this positive prophecy, and he's explaining as the Malbims want to do. He doesn't let any word go by, and he's very meduyak. So he goes, Kirov hachol. He's talking about the chol, right? Vaya mispar b'nei Yisrael kechol hayam asher lo yimad velo yisafer. It will be like the sand of the sea that cannot be counted. כי רוב החול נסתר במצולות ים ובתהומות הארץ, שאי אפשר לאדם להגיע שמה. The sand, most of the sand, you don't see the sand. It's under the ocean, the sand. It didn't say ככל אשר על שפת הים, which I read at first. The sand on the shore. This is the sand in the ocean. You know how much sand there is in the ocean? But no one says, שאי אפשר לאדם להגיע שמה. כן לא יהיה אפשר לספר את ישראל. אם מצד ריבוים, אם מצד שיהיו מפוזרים ונסתרים באפסי ארץ, עד שרבים מהשבטים חשובים כעובדים, כי אין יודע מקומם ככל הטמון במעמקי ימים. Says the Malbim, this is a unique statement of what he's referencing. He's referencing the 10 tribes. He's referencing the Am Yisrael. You know, it's a continuum. Lo Ami, he agrees with Rashi. We're out, we're in exile. But there in exile, something amazing is going to happen. Am Yisrael are going to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow in a way that no one even knows where they are. No one even knows who they are or where they are. Okay? ואז יהיה במקום אשר ציווה השם עתה, שאומר להם לא עמי אתם, דהיינו במקום שדיחם בגלות והסתיר פניו מהם, when at this point, when he sends them into exile and seems to turn his face and say you're not my people, אז יאמר להם שבני חי. שאז יכירו כולם כי אביהם חי ומשגיח על בניו בהשגחה מיוחדת מופלאה, שעל ידי זה יתקיימו משך זמן הגלות ונודע בגורם זרעם כי הם זרע ברך השם. In exile, the fact that the people can continue existing, everyone will recognize that they are the children of God. This is a spine-tingling moment of the Malbim explaining how Hosea is prophesizing what's going to happen in exile. Am Yisrael are going to multiply, become very large. And even though at first it seems that Hashem turned their face for them, as time goes on, it will be recognized that they are Hashem's people. Yakiru kulam, כי אביהם חי ומשגיח על בניו בהשגחה מיוחדת מופלאה, שעל ידי זה יתקיימו משך זמן הגלות. Says the Malbim in 1850 or whatever. The Malbim, with the perspective of history's 2,000 years, says, look at this. This is what Hosea is prophesizing. That Am Yisrael, at first glance, are the downtrodden, right? Hello, Christians, we're talking to you. That Am Yisrael, at first glance, are downtrodden, and they're not Ami. Right? Lo Ami, that's what they say. They've been changed. But as time goes by, and Am Yisrael continues to multiply, and they exist, and they are obviously have divine providence leading them, little by little will become clear that they are Bnei El Chai. They are the children of Hashem, says the Malbim. So the first psukim here, he continues Rashi's thing, is a reaction to the previous prophecy in Perek Aleph. Perek Bet is Nechama, but it's a Nechama Bagalut. Okay, it's a fascinating thing. It's saying that there is something good that's going to come out of this. And we're going to see that later as we go on. Ki gadol Yom Yisrael, says the Malbim, שאז שם הבן הראשון הנקרא ישראל להורות על משפט השם בעם, יתקיים באופן אחר. כמו שנאמר, וזרעתיה לי בארץ, שיקרא בשם ישראל מעניין זריעה. Why is they suddenly called Israel now, here in exile? שהגלות יהיה כזורע גרעיני תבואה בעומק אדמה, ונראה לו שהגרעינים נרקבו, ונבלה. It's a great sin. What does it look like when you're planted in exile? It looks like you're dead. You know what happens when you plant a seed in the ground? What happens when you plant a seed?
You don't see it anymore.
You don't see it. And what happens to the seed?
Cracks.
It not cracks, it disintegrates. That's what happens to the seed. So at first glance, oy vavoy.
Rotted away.
Yeah, it rotted away. I lost my seed. And then suddenly, after a year or a month or whatever it is, suddenly you see a sprout. Says him. The first Yisrael, I'll use what the Dat Mikra says. Another way of reading Yisrael. See this word Yisre? You know what that means?
It's like cautiousness, right? Like,
No, that's li zaher. That would put the hay before the resh. Lizrot is to throw out to the wind. Seder? Zoreh in Shabbat is the melacha where you take the grain and throw it up, and the wind comes and blows away the chaff, whatever, right? The chaff's the word, I think. We need Yonatan here. Okay, so it blows away. That's Yisrael, and that the Dat Mikra reads it comes from the word. Also has a negative connotation that I will spread you out into the nations. Says the Malbim, that was the negative prophecy. Now I'm taking the same word, I spread you the nations, but your job in the nations is to sprout and come back. The Radak's going to say later, when he goes into the specifics of these things, the Radak's going to say, Lo nizreu Yisrael bagoyim, ela, to bring back Gerim. That's what he's going to say. The reason we were born to the exile is to bring back Gerim with us.
or that's a reference to ideas and not people.
It could be all kinds of things. Obviously, Rav Kook would mention that. But this idea, this Kabbalistic idea almost, that we've been spread out to find the sparks, to find the... This is brought here in Radak.
In Churban Bayit Sheni, there are about 5 million Jews in the world that are on Churban.
Are you saying or asking?
No,
I have no idea.
I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
I know there was 2 million there in Israel, and there was not the majority.
Okay.
It was not the majority of Jews lived. It was 2 million, so about probably 5 million. And by the time in 1948, it was, I think, maybe just double that. So it's just like double the population in 2,000 years. Like that's not really much of an increase.
Not at all. Not at all. Correct. Somehow we haven't. It doesn't seem like we're the sand in the sea. Machon? Doesn't seem that has happened yet. Maybe we have yet to remain. Well, let's go on here. אז דומה, you say, ואחר כך יציצו ויצמחו ויוציאו פרי תבואה כפלי כפליים. The seed that you planted that seemed to disappear, it will come out double. כן יציצו מן הגולים שנזרעו בארצות שווים, בארצות שבים, עם רב ככל הים, אשר לא יספר עם הגרים הנלווים עמהם, כמו שאמרו חז"ל. ויום יזרעאל היינו יום שתתגלה הזריעה הזאת שראה אלוהים בארץ ויישא אלומותיו. Yom Yisrael is the day when you'll recognize the planting. When we recognize the planting? When you reap. When everyone starts returning to Eretz Yisrael, it's called Yom Yisrael, not because that's the day it's being planted, it's the day when you recognize and you appreciate the planting. Yom ze yeh gadol me'od, mitzad hanisim v'agdolot sheyaseh Hashem bayom ha'u le'enei kol hagoyim. So the Malbim, besides explaining beautifully this concept of Yisrael and Lo Ami and what's happening there, he continues Rashi's understanding that we're talking about Nechama. To burst our bubble comes the Ibn Ezra. Okay, the Ibn Ezra. Ezra, you ready? You usually have a good take on the Ibn Ezra. Somehow Ezra he's a Gilgul of Ezra, the Ibn Ezra. He has like a Ibn Ezra mind. Right? What was the last time you were with him? Oh, right. When he says, "How could it be that Hosea did what he did?" Right? It's exactly you almost quoted verbatim. Good word. The Ibn Ezra, right? So here we have the. Oh, I didn't read the last one. So let's finish up the Malbim here. Imru. I'm sorry, right before the Ibn Ezra. רצונו לומר, אחר שיהיה מספר בני ישראל ככל הים, אם כן אני מצווה לבנים ולבת, שהם תאמרו לאחיכם, שרצו לקרוא בשמי לא עמי, שהם עמי, ולאחותיכם, שרצו לקרוא בשם לא רוחמה, שרוחמה. אחר של עתיד, יהיו עם השם והשם ירחמם. Okay, so he says, as opposed to what you thought, to say, not my brothers, not my sisters, not ami, not achechem, they are your sisters and your ami and ruchama. והשם ירחמם, ובזה טען נגד השם, שרצה שישלח את אשתו, ויקרא ולבניו לא רוחם ולא עמי, ומבקש שכן השם יאמר להם עמי אתם על שם העתיד. So here he brings the Midrash in, at the end of his Perush, he says, Hosea is begging Am Yisrael. This is what you're saying. And you ask who says this, and I said it was a prophecy. So the Malbim goes in your way, and the Malbim says, this is Hosea begging Hashem, saying, look what's going to happen in the future. Please call them now Ami. Don't say Lo Ami. They in the future will be Ami. This is Hosea pleading to Hashem and fixing his previous statement of saying that they're not. So here that Ibn Ezra. ועלו מן הארץ כי גדול יום ישראל, שנפקד עוון בית ישראל, והנה הכל לגנאי ולא לשבח. So good, the Ibn Ezra says. When he says here that עלו מן הארץ כי גדול יום ישראל, that's not a positive thing. They're going to go and leave the land. לא עלו לארץ, עלו מן הארץ. Which aretz? This aretz. They were saying, one second. Rashi and the Malbim were saying, this is the future, and then they're going to come back. The Ibn Ezra says, no, this is the present, and they're going to leave. That's how he says. So how does he read this? Imru, kederech vayatel bem Eliyahu, vayomer kir'u bekol, samech b'chur b'yaludecha, bo'u be'etel, v'rabim kacha. על כן אחריו ריבו בימכם ריבו. איך אתם בני אל חי והאם זנתה והם האבות. He says it is mockery, these psukim. He's mocking Am Yisrael. Okay? You guys think you guys are Ami, you're bnei chai, you'll come together and you'll come back. Ma pitom! You look at your mother, look at your father, look what's going on. He says the whole thing is lignai, akol lignai. It's all negative. It's amazing.
In building up to what's coming.
Building up to the continuation of the parak, which is, in other words, instead of this, he says, no, it's this. All these three and a retzef in one long reading, it's all not. So what do I do with the positive? I just make it sarcastic. I make it, he said, and the pasuk he used is Eliyahu, who says to the Nevi Abal, whoa, call him, he's sleeping, say louder. Was he serious? Was Eliyahu serious when he says that? Of course not. So too, Hosea here isn't serious when he's saying, oh, look at you, you're so much, everything's great, Hashem loves you, look what's going on. That's pasuk Daled, look what's going on. Rivu b'imchem rivu. Are you kidding me? So the Ibn Ezra reads these psukim 100% different, 180 degrees afuch, opposite. But we understand Ibn Ezra why he would have to do it, because Rashi's and the Malbim, they're going back and forth. They're making it a chiastic way of reading. One, two. These are the continuation of Perek Aleph.
It's all negative.
Right. There's no hipuch. It's going to be positive here. This is very hard to keep it unpositive. We'll see. But up until there, he's keeping it in the negative light. And that's how the Ibn Ezra explains these statements. So again, as we know in my classes, this is what we live for. We live for this opposite understanding of the psukim, and in prophecies, it's even easier to do this than in other places. As in storylines, even then we've seen opposite perushim on stories. Prophecies, in the fact that they're metaphoric and they're literary and they're more poetic. Poetic. They're more poetic. And so obviously with poems, there's always more leeway in trying to understand exactly what's going on here. So here, Al Atchala, in the first of the great prophets, we see the Ibn Ezra and Rashi and the Malbim disagreeing on how to read what Hosea is saying. Are we in the realm of... So again, I think this is like a great machloket on how you read something. The Ibn Ezra is saying, listen, context matters. Bad prophecy. In the middle, you're sticking me with this good prophecy. Does it make sense? Says says Rashi and the Malbi, but listen to the words. The words definitely sound nechama. They sound that they're mercy. They sound like they're good. They sound that they're consolation.
But then the last psukim are good again, no?
Okay, but that's
What
opposite.
did Ezra say about that?
Ibn Ezra says that here it ends, the bad one ends here, and then we have a good one. But to put it in the middle, says Ibn Ezra, what are you doing? 3 psukim stuck in the middle, it doesn't make sense. The pasuk right after Rivu b'imchem Rivu, you just said it's good. Rivu, what is there to fight?
So he's saying the Geulah is going to come later.
After this, we'll have Geulah. Right, the second half of Parak Bet is already, that's the shift. But don't shift me back and forth. That's what he doesn't like. Back and forth. No, it doesn't work. Says Rashi in the Malbim, but listen, you have to understand. You have to appreciate how both readings are correct. When we read the things, and I challenged you guys, said, "What's going on here? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it bad?" So that's what the Ibn Ezra says. No, it can't be. It's good. It's bad. And then he said, "So what do you do with the good ones?" We flip them and turn it to sarcasm. We turn it into a kind of sarcasm. Listen, I think we're going to stop here. I know it's 15 minutes early. I'm sure whichever team needs to win, Hashem will send them hatzlacha and they will win. It will be okay. But I think I'm going to stop here for 2 reasons. One, I want to get to early slichot, even though we learned that it's not relevant. But we also learned that if you're going to collapse, like I feel like I'm doing today, then you should not be doing this. So I think I'm going to run out so I can do that.
Is there going to be class next week? Or?
No, because it's Rosh Hashanah.
Right, okay.
Do you know if there's Bichlal any classes on Sunday, next Sunday?
I'm sure whoever Rabbanim are here will
There's not going to be classes on Sunday.
It's for sure?
No.
Yeah, it's like Friday, yeah.
Zman is over.
Yeah.
No, Zman's not over. Zman's after Yom Kippur.
It's like Friday.
After Yom Kippur.
After Yom Kippur.
Okay. No. So there won't be classes on Sunday. Classes will renew on Wednesday, on Tzom Gedalia. And we will maybe learn about Tzom Gedalia. Even though, have I taught you guys Tzom Gedalia? I must have taught it at some point. Someone's taught you, I'm sure, about what happened on Tzom Gedalia. And
the installed governor gets killed. Now I can't eat. What's up with that?
So tell me what's up with that. That was the end of the. That's the end of the Churban. But we'll talk about it. Bezrat Hashem on Wednesday. Yalla, Laila Tov.
Good.